From a customer acquisition perspective, it is important, especially when you were not flying, it was important to be relevant. Even when you're not flying, you have to engage with the customer, and you can only do it digitally.
Rule number one of marketing is not at all marketing. Rule number one is product and service. So if they become your advocates, they will go ahead and tell, they will go ahead and share.
The B2B customer is also a B2C customer in another life, right? He could be a CTO, he could be a panel builder or a facility head, but he's also a guy or she's also a woman who's buying from Amazon. So I'm turning your question a little bit to suit my answer.
Welcome to ET Catalyse Virtual, the customer service special. Today, in our customer service 2.0, we will discuss how digital is rewriting the rules of engagement. We have with us Deepti from Vistara, Chaitanya from Wakefit, and Bidisha from Schneider Electric. Airline industry was the one that took a major set of changes and has been still running on the fly or flying on the run, so to say, if I can use that word. And there is so much that you would have understood, experienced, and changed strategy almost every day if required. But if one were to move to digital, because digital is the centerpiece today for all of us, we're living our lives digital. This entire session is being conducted virtually on digital platform. What will be the impact on the customer acquisition patterns?
From a customer acquisition perspective, it is important, especially when you were not flying, it was important to be relevant. Even when you're not flying, you have to engage with the customer, and you can only do it digitally. So as to keep the brand on top of mind, so that when you start flying, there is a certain connect that you again build. And it was very important for us to do that. So while we were in lockdown, all airlines, everybody was staying put, but you still have a follower base or a customer base that you can engage with. So there was a campaign actually that we did, which was launched digitally. Which was when we kind of got to know that we are going to start flying soon, like towards the end of May. We spoke a lot about flying safe. So there was a flying feel safe campaign to ensure, today it was a fear of flying, right? It was a fear of contracting the virus. So how do you ensure that you acquire the customer back? It was a complete new thing. Every sector, every pricing had to be redone. As you said, the entire strategy had to be redone. So you're not really going to a customer with a deal. Now the strategy of acquiring the customer and ensuring that he flies with you is largely basis how you address the then and there fear and how you instill confidence.
So unlike the price point that was always being used on the digital and more so by airlines,
correct.
Here the spiel is very different. Hey, it's safe to fly. Hey, it's comfortable to fly. Fly with us.
Yeah, and also that is why the entire campaign and the narrative of the brand was done digitally. Also, when we started to fly, when we started to fly, all the screens at the airport, couldn't really do advertising, of course, the budget constraints, but whatever you could do in terms of messaging, we had taken digital screens. So to give an example, Delhi and Bombay airport had these screens where the message was just about how you will be safe, how you need to wash your hands, social distancing in the flight, you're required to do X, Y, Z, that this is what you're required to do at the baggage. So what you're doing is that you are instilling confidence, and the acquisition of the customer or a repetition of a repeat customer this is the way, because you change the thinking has completely changed. So when you start thinking how a customer is thinking in that time, you kind of translate your strategies accordingly. So that's exactly what we did.
Well put. So it was in a way not just customer acquisition, it was customer confidence acquisition to begin.
Absolutely. That was the first step, right? Because you have to address the fear.
Chaitanya, if I can come to you, like we discussed a bit earlier before the show, that for 2 months for a founder to not be able to service the customer and lockdown enforced, what were the customer acquisition tricks you learned or quickly deployed immediately once the unlock started happening, the unlock 1.0 to begin with?
I think our work had started before the unlock started, Deepak. Like you rightly said, as founders, we were very impatient, sitting on our hands, nothing to do. But our team was also impatient. They're hungry, they're young. And we had a large customer delight team whose job was not to solve tickets, but to give customers delight. How do you use the product? How do you take care of it? How do you make it last long? And suddenly that whole team was free. So what we did was we started up calling our customers from 2017, 2018 and 2019 and saying, hey, we know you're anxious. as per CDC, as per our own government, ICMR, these are the key best practices that they're saying. After this call, you're going to get an SMS. Hope you're staying safe. If there's anything that we can do, let us know. There was no sales pitch. There was nothing. It was just a way to get back into their minds that we are there. We did not even talk about the new product introduction. We just said we are there. If there's anything that we can help you, let us know. And by the way, these are the best practices. Please take care. Hope you're staying safe. So we must have called thousands of customers, and they all loved the idea. They said, if you don't know what kind of stories that came from there. People were separated from their families, bachelors living in a different city, unable to cook, spouses separated between cities, spouses.
They shared these stories with you.
Yes. It's just nice to talk, because suddenly when the lockdown was enforced, a lot of people's personal lives were disrupted. And then that gave rise to the campaign that we did later on. We called it the Wakefit Postbox during the lockdown period, where we said, if you have any anxiety relating to the pandemic, you share it with us and we will create a video out of it. And we'll make sure that it reaches the world. So we had a video of a husband cribbing about how he is constantly washing dishes. A video of a wife who was annoyed at her husband sharing those videos rather than actually helping her out sincerely. A bachelor struggling and missing hotel food. A bachelor writing a note to his maid. So I think that no sales pitch at all. The brand remained at the back, and we just focused on ensuring that if our customers are in this point in their lives, we have to be there to sort of support them. That's about it.
So not just physical comfort, I guess you latched on to emotional comfort, mental comfort, and thereby sort of gained a place in their hearts. Bidisha, something that you can share, large part of your marketing would also be B2B, I would assume. How does one go about thinking of customer acquisition or even customer retention relationship during that period? What was your experience like?
We were one category that was an essential service as mandated by the government, right? So there was a huge responsibility on us to make sure that supply chain happens, manufacturing happens, and nothing stops. So during this period, the idea was, how do we actually, more than acquiring customers, how do we help customers out? Because, whether it's a home customer, where we sell our switches and our UPSs to, or whether it's healthcare, or whether it's data centers, or whether it's manufacturing units. The idea was, how do we stay relevant and how do we actually reach out to them to say, what do you need right now? Because power is really the backbone for everything, right? Actually, across segments, we had very, very interesting campaigns. You want to call it campaigns, you want to call it real stories that went on. Work from home was and is the thing, right? And so therefore, we immediately looked at how do we reach out our UPSs, back UPSs to consumers, because you need that power if you're trying to connect to the internet. So we reached out to consumers, we reached out to companies to say that, hey, this is the time for you to offer this entire work from home package to your employees.
How was this being done? Was it phone calls being made?
We did two things. We launched a television campaign, which is the campaign called "What Does Home Mean to You?", where we tried, bringing in some positivity to this entire situation, right? So there was so much of fear that was going on, that we had a digital campaign and a television campaign to reach out to the home customers directly, which had beautiful stories about how, what you can do at home, to make use of the situation, look at it in a positive way. For example, there was a very interesting situation where we showed where this boy, his love interest stays across the road, and how he can use a switch and play a little game, to communicate love across the road. And very, very positive stories. And of course, you end the commercial with saying that, what does home mean to you? Send us your stories, and get this whole package of work from home kit. We reached out to that's home, but when it came to corporates, we actually reached out to them through a digital campaign. Each one of them saying, this is a work from home campaign. What are you waiting for? Offer it to your consumers, to your employees. Sorry. So that was the entire segment which needed power to get them to work from home. Then moving to healthcare, AIMS, for example, wanted to set up a 1,000-unit bed, in a week's time, and we were there they reached out to us. They are our existing customers, but how do you make sure that we were there in 24 hours time? We set up a power, enhance their power distribution and set up the entire unit. There are lots and lots of stories. We worked with a lot of our manufacturing customers to change their belt into producing masks. If there were companies that were doing, for example, pharmaceutical companies moved into making masks, and therefore we helped them with their power.
What I hear from all three of you, more than customer acquisition, it was the customer assurance that was being practiced then, because that was the need of the hour. And if that helped build relationships, that will lead to further customer acquisition, because if in the time of need, you're there for the customer and you've given that assurance, you think that leaves a lasting impact and thereby a gain in the future on acquisition.
Absolutely right. I mean, think about the healthcare industry, for example. If there was a brand that got to you in 24 hours time and let you set up an entire unit, I mean, tomorrow, even if there is, I'm just saying, even if there is a problem with that particular brand, but you'll always remember, like you said, that here was a brand that helped me when I needed the help, right? And then I become more tolerant towards any kind of potential issues that may come up. So I totally agree with you that building a lasting relationship, is perhaps more important in a long-term customer journey than a transactional relationship. I mean, that's my point of view.
So that actually, brings us to the customer service 2.0. And Deepti, if I can get you in on this, in the customer service 2.0 that gets shaped and will continue to get shaped from here on, which also forces you to do a lot of things digital, try new digital touch points. Any new innovation that you went about?
If you recall, actually, Vistara started the journey of innovation some time back. We started it quite some time back. You may have heard of the biometric facial recognition at the airport, and our progress on that was anyway faster. But given the situation, yes, there was scan and fly, which was kiosks that were kind of put at the airport when we started to fly, or just before we started to fly. Then there was bag tag. Then there was auto baggage drop kind of facilities that were created. So that was when the customer is going to fly, and there's a touch point there, and you have to ensure that there is very less kind of interaction that is happening. Now, on the other hand, we also did a few things which were to ease the customer, like convenient the customer to reach us. So call center volumes were pretty high, because flights, suddenly everything stopped. So you have to then innovate there. So there were certain tools that we introduced that a customer can reach out, on the website, etc. Some more tools are going to get introduced. So if you are not able to reach out via a call center, you kind of, use these tools to reach out. So, things like that were really, also there was a mandate from the government that you need to have like a self-declaration form, otherwise you cannot fly once you start. So there was a whole lot of development work that had to be done, and thought through in terms of how it will be a seamless process for the customer when the customer comes online, and how it gets translated into the airport, and, it kind of gets reflected there.
All the declarations, somebody flew and I experienced it, all the declarations moved online. So it wasn't pen paper.
It was,
not at all. Right?
Yeah, so that is something that we really had to think through. And it was not just marketing, actually, because it was also what happens at the airport, at the ground services, and things like that. And if you look at it today, almost 100% is web check-in because of that form. So in a way, it's also changing behavior.
That's a lasting impact. True.
Correct. So it's a long-lasting impact, actually, for us.
True. Chaitanya, when you sort of started unlocking and you built an entire brand on digital, in your line of products, you've moved much beyond mattresses, and you have furniture, study table, chairs, which are much in need even today, right? Everyone's working from home, so they're trying to set up a home office. Did you do something like that? Made some videos of how you would ship a product, but people can, assemble it and then make it all DIY at their home, or anything else that you tried?
You're right, Deepak. We are a digitally native, born online kind of a company. Started 5 years ago, and we've been very fortunate to be at the right time, right place, building a brand which people needed. And it was in an industry that was largely organized, We started off just with mattresses, then expanded into sleep, and then expanded into home solutions, like you said. So our DNA, if you look at it, we're ultimately middle class people. You can take us out of that, you can put us in a B school, you can get you onto a top engineering college, but then we're middle class. We want things that last. We want things that are affordable. We want things that we pay for and feel like that person didn't cheat me. And that's when you achieve success. That's when you achieve scale in a country like India. So I think that became a defining factor in everything that we've done, and that has remained authentic. Whether it's our communications, whether it is our R&D, price points, the content that goes out, I think everything just comes down to this: can you give a really great quality product at super affordable price point, and then always retain that brand promise? Because like you said, we don't have a store, we are completely online. All of our revenue comes online, and most of that, a large percentage of that, comes from our own website, not a marketplace. So that means people are going to trust their friends, their families, their colleagues who recommend and say, yes, go ahead and try Wakefit. Or if they say, no, don't talk to them at all, they're super bad, don't even trust them. If that happens, we are screwed. So I think that defines everything that we did. So coming back to why we did all of the things is exactly that. Our furniture had to be DIY for us to be able to meet that quality and price point standard. So we created hundreds of prototypes. And then we said we don't want an experience like IKEA where you need an engineer to assemble it. It has to be very, very simple. It has to be very comfortable. A husband and wife or two people in the house should be able to think of it as a very fun DIY project. And so our engineered, the Shisham wood beds that we designed are completely DIY. So mattresses are anyway DIY. We roll pack it and send it, and you just unpack it, and it regains its shape in 10 minutes. So that has definitely been the driving force behind all of our decisions.
I guess Wakefit can produce FIY videos. Fit it yourself.
We do have them. We do have them.
Okay, good. So, I wanted to understand from you, since you built the brand entirely online using digital as the medium, how do you get what triggers for a digital native customer the buy button? What are the things that one needs to do? What emotion do you appeal to trigger that buy button?
I think first and foremost, you need to be very clear how you're different from other people. And that no matter how much you spend money saying it, it doesn't happen. So like I believe rule number one of marketing is not at all marketing. Rule number one is product and service. So if they become your advocates, they will go ahead and tell, they will go ahead and share. I know it's very easy to get an unhappy customer to share, and it's very tough for a happy customer to share. If you spend your efforts there, there's a good rainbow at the end of that tough path. So we definitely did that, and only then did we get into marketing. So that means word of mouth, reviews, testimonials, actual user videos, every single thing played a big role. After that, we as a marketing organization or as an R&D organization have no legacy, right? We are a startup. So we're not scared of anything in trying out things that push the boundaries. So last year we did the sleep internship. We said because sleep is so important and everybody is talking about how less they sleep because they want to be successful. We said we are going to celebrate people who value their sleep. We said we'll select people who are passionate about sleep and give them all 1 lakh rupees each. And that's what we did. And that got us coverage that no amount of money could have got us. And a big brand would probably think twice before thinking on those lines.
Bidisha, if I can come to you, I want to understand the interplay of digital marketing and B2B. B2B also is so much about meeting people offline, building that trust relationship, big trade fairs, right? But now that everything is happening virtual, anything interesting that you've come across or you would like to try in building an entire virtual experience?
I think the good thing about I can say about Schneider Electric is that we have sort of jumped into this digital bandwagon almost 3-4 years back, right? We believe one thing very strongly, that a B2B customer is also a B2C customer in another life, right? I mean, he could be a CTO, he could be a a panel builder or a facility head, but he's also a guy or she's also a woman who's buying from Amazon. So they have a certain benchmark of what to expect from a digital interface. right? You can't say that, oh, I'm going to a B2B, so I need to change my hat and expect something different. So we strongly believe that experiences are very, very important for, a company like ours, certainly. Now, for us, interestingly, if you look at, if you look at the mission of our company, right, what are we into? While our core play is energy management, at the end of the day, we are trying to address the climate problem of the world. Okay, and so it's a very, very interesting mission, which cannot just be communicated through products and solutions in trade fairs. This mission needs to be communicated through stories, through real life examples, etc. For us, the entire digitization is really a moment of truth, has been for the many years. And during this pandemic, it actually gave us a very strong edge or a fillip, to address the problem. To get our company to have a digital face to the end customer, it's a very important for our sales organization to become digitally ready, because otherwise, we are trying to create demand through a certain medium and then try and solve it through a certain medium. But if the sales force is not ready to embrace that medium, then there is a gap. We actually look at it from a push-pull standpoint, to make our entire push organization absolutely ready to figure out how do you, acquire customers digitally, how do you nurture them digitally, how do you take them through factory tours, digitally, etc., etc., and how do you even get a customer to choose pricing, to configure pricing, to select the right kind of product, do everything digitally. So I think we had jumped into this entire journey earlier, so it was very easy for us to kind of move the entire accelerate the entire thing during the pandemic. When it comes to the end customer, like I said, we are one of those custom companies where my target audience definition is from an electrician to a CEO and everybody in between. So we have different types of digital intervention. I mean, for an electrician, where we know that they don't have an email ID, then the mobile first experience is the first experience that we give them through a mobile app. We work with a lot of partners where again they're on the go, so they need to, when they are going to push a Schneider product to a customer, they need all the information on their mobile phone. So we have an entire mobile application for them. Then of course, when you go to different kind of customers, like I said, whether it's healthcare, home, all the other segments, government, utilities that we work with, we have very personalized digital experiences with each one of them. So therefore for us, that one size certainly does not fit all. We have personalized digital experiences. Some of them start at a search engine level, we prospect from there and close, digitally. Some of them start maybe through an event, or a trade fair, but the nurturing path after we get them to meet us at the trade fair, how do you nurture them? How do you influence them digitally? So it really is a mix of different types of digital experiences that we put up to our customers.
Deepti, airline industry is so much about experience, right? Right from the moment you land at the airport, the efficiency at check-in, the comfort that the staff gives you, the food, you're a full service airline.
Yeah.
And then eventually, now keeping a track of course, who's boarding with all the records and the government due diligence. When they land now about quarantine norms, thankfully some of them have been eased away. But experience is so much critical in an airline industry. And now when you have to do so much of it virtual.
Correct.
Anything that you can share when, if you have learned, or you would think that it's near experience or, mimicking the near real life experience in the virtual environment of doing so many things virtually, barring of course the travel. How does this marry for a marketeer that so much of your experience starts for a customer from the virtual and then comes to the real world when they fly with you? And then maybe, when you bid them goodbye, when they land at their destination, are there some things that you do virtually again to reconnect with them to ensure, they've landed safely and all?
So you're absolutely right. The experience is always for an airline is in flight. And what we get rated on or on NPS, etc., is largely for that experience. Of course, there are other things as well. And if that experience is not happening or is happening in a very limited way, it's important to have some kind of a connect virtually. Obviously, it cannot be translated in an exact way, but because we are service oriented, we are a brand which sits in that kind of an archetype, which communicates in a warm tone, which is caring. There's a human element to it. Even in our campaigns, there's a human element to it. So it is important to kind of just translate that digitally while there is flying happening or not happening or happening in a limited way. So once we started to fly, there is a lot of, we kind of look at an NPS as well, but we also encouraged our travelers to kind of talk about their experience online. So people also, out of their own goodwill, also they do it. They go ahead and tweet as to how the ground services helped them, or how the crew was very nice, or somebody's traveling with an old parent or whatever. It was like a appreciation of the service, and we wanted to reciprocate that, in our warm and caring way. So we created a property called Vistara Love. We actually had that property long time back, but we were not really engaging on that property. So what we did is we would accumulate all the appreciation, and it was under Vistara Love, and we would kind of show gratitude towards appreciating our staff and our crew and our ground services to be able, when they did a good job. So that was one way. But other than that, it's not really about, you can't really translate that experience. If I look at somebody, say like a platinum member today, we have a club, right? We have a club, Vistara. And a platinum member today gets a very different treatment in the aircraft. And again, since we are not flying or flying in a limited capacity, there's a lot of interaction that one can do, or interaction that a platinum member would like to do with us, whether it is for complaints or queries or whatever. So we actually launched a special helpline where it's far more prompt, it's far more service oriented. They don't have to wait in longer queues. And this was all done during this time that, launching a separate helpline was, again, and communicating about that. So in these smaller ways, one can just kind of.
So you use virtual and digital to complement the service and the experience.
Yeah.
That you always promised in the real world and when they fly with you.
Yeah, keeping in mind the entire brand tonality, the space that the brand kind of communicates in, even in the digital world.
Right. So Chaitanya, you've used digital extensively. What I want to understand from you is, how does one measure the efficacy of it, and understand deep that how do I measure what in terms of measuring experience, potential customer that will convert? What are the metrics that you look at?
All of you already know this, but digital provides you a lot more means of measuring brand spends and efficacy than traditional ATL or traditional activations do. But even after considering all of that, it's a very, very broken ecosystem. Google wants to take credit for every sale. Facebook wants to take credit for every sale, because these customers would have touched that ecosystem somewhere in the journey. Has that person actually been influenced by what they saw there or not is anybody's guess. It's just, you cannot make decisions based on that. Secondly, you have a ton of tools that you end up using for marketing automation, for chatting, for our own homegrown CRM system and order management system, because we couldn't find any tool that was meeting our needs. So we built everything. We have a 35-member tech team, being an e-commerce company, because everybody talks to us and says, technology for e-commerce is solved. Why do you even need a tech team? Then we have to explain, why, hold on. You need, because nobody in the off-the-shelf scenario is solving the problems that we want to solve. So that way it's extremely broken. So it is a combination of data being pulled out from multiple places, lots and lots of Excel sheets, and then in the end, it's also a bit of gut feel. You need to have a pulse on your community, your consumers, based on what they're watching, what they're hearing, what they're seeing, to know whether this campaign would work, whether it would resonate or not. Obviously, we have user experience research teams who are just doing research, who are just observing user behavior. But at the end of the day, it also boils down to this. I'm just, as a startup founder who's just so focused on ROI, I'm just dreading the time that we will have to go ATL. Because then I feel like it'll be like on gambling experience. You put in money and then see what happens somewhere down the line. Deeply uncomfortable. So I'm already thinking about how to put metrics to even ATL spend. Can you do something with technology? But otherwise, it's very, very tough to measure the efficacy.
I'll come to the last and the final round of this episode, and we call it the rapid fire round, where We'll have quick questions, and we hope, no, rather, we would say we expect very clearly one word or at best one line answers from you. One piece of advice that you would like to give your 21-year-old self.
Okay, that's not a rapid fire question.
For a one-line advice. Don't bore Deepti, a 21-year-old, with a sermon. So give her one line.
Don't think so much ahead. Try and resolve issues and try and look at problems that are there at hand and find solutions.
Oh, at 21, you want to give her that. Okay. All right. Do remember you're 21.
Yes.
I mean, you're giving it to a 21-year-old.
Yes, yes.
Chaitanya?
Break even more rules.
All right. You didn't break enough. Okay, great. Bidisha?
Don't take life so seriously. Everything will work out eventually.
You didn't chill enough, it seems. Great. So you want to go back and get her to chill, right? Second question, Mr. Wakefit man, what aspect of your business doesn't let you sleep at night?
Unhappy customers.
Bidisha?
How do I show return on investment for a marketing budget?
ROI is the big question that the CEO always asks the CMO.
Exactly.
Right. Deepti?
How do I ensure that my brand relevancy is there at every touch point?
The last question, and this one comes to Bidisha first. What is the most cliched marketing jargon that you would want to do away with?
Well, a cliched marketing jargon that I don't want to do away with is coming to my head, so I'll tell you that, which is customer is king. So I'm turning your question a little bit to suit my answer.
Something that's a mantra that you live by. Fair enough. So let me, if you want, I can rephrase the question to this. The one mantra that you want to, the marketing mantra that you want to swear by. So Bidisha,
Okay.
you've said customer is king.
No, okay, yeah. If that's a question, then I have a slightly different answer in today's times, right?
Go ahead.
Which is, I feel I want to learn to unlearn and relearn. Because for a marketing person to unlearn and relearn is I feel a tough one. But so I want to learn to unlearn and relearn.
Deepti, one jargon, marketing jargon that you would want to swear by.
Be relevant to the customer. Customer needs are constantly changing with circumstances. So be relevant.
Be relevant. Chaitanya?
Actually, actively avoid time. Actually, spend time avoiding cliches. But I think one thing we believe is that your customers already know where they want to take you. You just have to know where to watch. It's not always in how they talk or what they say. It's in how they behave. If you just know what to watch for.
Much about customer science, so to say. Good. Thanks so much. Great learning on the customer 2.0 and the customer service that one needs to keep a track of. Thank you so much. I hope all of you enjoyed. We like to learn and improvise every single show. So thank you so much for spending your Saturday or a weekend with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Deepak.
Thank you, Deepak.
If you want to reach out to us, just mail us on hello@etcatalyze.com and watch all our episodes also on the website etcatalyze.com.